August 31st, 1944. General George Smith Patton Jr. stood in the operations tent of 3rd Army headquarters in Chalon-sur-Marne, France, staring at a map that showed his armored columns frozen 90 miles from the German border. Not frozen by enemy action, frozen by mathematics. His fuel trucks were empty. His M4 Sherman tanks, which could advance 60 miles per day when supplied, now sat motionless in French fields, their guns loaded, their crews ready, their fuel tanks bone dry. Patton's chief of staff, Major General Hugh Gaffey, had just delivered the number that stopped the most aggressive general in the European theater. "Sir, we received 12,000 gallons today. We need 400,000 gallons to resume the advance." Patton's response became one of the most quoted lines of World War II. But what most people don't know is what he said next, what the sanitized history books left out, and what that moment revealed about the brutal economic mathematics that actually won the war. This wasn't a story about tactics or courage or brilliant generalship. This was a story about the one thing that matters more than all of those combined: logistics. The ability to deliver fuel, ammunition, food, and spare parts to soldiers who are 600 miles from the nearest port. And in late summer 1944, that system had reached its absolute breaking point. To understand what Patton said, you first have to understand what he'd accomplished in the previous 30 days. On August 1st, 1944, 3rd Army became operational in France. Patton had been given 4 corps, 15 divisions, 290,000 men, 600 tanks. His mission was simple: exploit the breakthrough at Normandy, race east, trap German forces before they could establish defensive lines. For the first 4 weeks, Patton did exactly that. His army advanced faster than any large formation in military history. They covered 400 miles in 26 days. That's 15 miles per day average, not for a small unit, for an entire army. 3rd Army liberated 47,000 square miles of French territory, captured 75,000 German prisoners, destroyed or captured 800 enemy tanks. The German 7th Army was shattered. The German 1st Army was in full retreat. Wehrmacht commanders were sending panicked reports to Berlin describing American mobility they couldn't counter. Patton was achieving the kind of breakthrough that textbooks said was impossible with modern defensive weapons. He was doing it through speed, pure, relentless speed that kept German forces off balance. But that speed consumed resources at a rate the Allied supply system was never designed to handle. 3rd Army's daily fuel consumption was staggering. Each Sherman tank held 165 gallons and consumed 1 gallon per mile. 600 tanks times 165 gallons equals 99,000 gallons just to fill the tanks. But tanks don't just drive once, they maneuver, they reposition, they conduct reconnaissance. Average consumption was 2 full tank loads per day. That's 198,000 gallons just for the tanks. Then add the trucks. 3rd Army had 15,000 GMC CCKW 2.5-ton trucks. Each truck held 50 gallons and consumed 1 gallon every 5 miles. 15,000 trucks times 50 gallons equals 750,000 gallons. Total daily fuel requirement for 3rd Army was approximately 1 million gallons, every single day, for an army that was 600 miles from the nearest functioning port. The only supply route was a single highway from Normandy beaches to the front lines. That highway had a name that every soldier knew: Red Ball Express. 6,000 trucks driving 24 hours a day in a continuous loop, bringing fuel, ammunition, food, everything an advancing army needed. At its peak, Red Ball Express delivered 12,000 tons of supplies daily. Sounds impressive until you realize that 3rd Army alone needed 15,000 tons. The mathematics didn't work, couldn't work. Something had to give. On August 25th, Patton received his first supply reduction. His fuel allocation was cut from 400,000 gallons daily to 300,000. He protested directly to General Omar Bradley, commander of 12th Army Group. Bradley explained the reality. "George, we're supplying 3 armies through 1 port. Cherbourg can only handle so much tonnage. The Red Ball Express is already at maximum capacity. Every truck we give you is a truck we take from 1st Army or British 2nd Army." Patton's response was typical. Then give me all the trucks. I'll be in Germany in 2 weeks. The other armies can catch up. Bradley refused. Eisenhower's strategy was broad front advance, all armies moving together, presenting multiple threats, preventing Germans from concentrating their defenses. Patton hated it. He believed in the single thrust. One army, maximum support, break through and win the war. But Eisenhower was supreme commander. His decision was final. Patton got 300,000 gallons. 6 days later, on August 31st, the allocation was cut again to 200,000 gallons, then 100,000. Then on September 1st, it dropped to 12,000 gallons. 12,000. For an army that needed 400,000. The reason was simple. The Allied logistics system had prioritized Operation Market Garden. British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's plan to seize bridges across the Netherlands and drive into Germany's industrial heartland. Montgomery convinced Eisenhower that his operation needed priority supply. Patton's advance was halted to feed Montgomery's advance. This is the moment Patton exploded. The meeting happened in Bradley's headquarters. Patton, Bradley, and several staff officers. The exact transcript exists in multiple sources. Bradley's memoir, Patton's diary, staff officer reports. When Bradley informed Patton that Third Army's fuel allocation was being diverted to support Market Garden, Patton's initial response was the famous quote, "My men can eat their belts, but my tanks have got to have gas." Then came the line that wasn't published until decades later. "Give me 400,000 gallons of gasoline, and I'll put you inside Germany in 2 days. Keep giving it to Monty, and we'll still be sitting here at Christmas." But Patton didn't stop there. What happened next revealed exactly how much he understood about the war he was fighting. He walked to the map table and started calculating out loud. "We're 90 miles from the German border. My tanks get 1 mile per gallon. That's 90 gallons per tank just to reach Germany. I have 600 tanks. That's 54,000 gallons. Add maneuvering and combat, double it. Call it 110,000 gallons. I have that much fuel right now sitting in trucks 20 miles behind the front. I don't need 400,000 gallons. I need you to authorize me to use what I already have, and I'll be across the border before Berlin realizes what happened." Bradley explained that orders came from Eisenhower. Third Army would hold position, conserve fuel, wait for the supply situation to improve. Patton's response is recorded in his personal diary entry from September 1st, 1944. The original is held at the Library of Congress. "We have at this time the greatest chance to win the war ever presented. Due to the shortage of gasoline, we are giving the enemy time to reorganize and reestablish a defensive line. If Ike would give me the supplies, I would go through the Siegfried line like sock through a goose." The strategic argument Patton was making was brutally simple. Germany was in chaos. Their armies in France were shattered. They'd lost 400,000 men as casualties, another 200,000 as prisoners. Their equipment losses were catastrophic. If Third Army could cross the Rhine in early September before Germany reorganized, the war might end by Christmas. But supplies were going to Montgomery instead. Montgomery's Market Garden operation required 10,000 tons of supplies daily. That tonnage came directly from Third Army's allocation. Patton believed Montgomery's plan was strategically flawed, too dependent on capturing intact bridges, too vulnerable to German counterattack. He was proven right. Market Garden launched September 17th. It failed by September 25th. The bridges at Arnhem were not captured. The British 1st Airborne Division was destroyed. The operation consumed massive supplies and achieved nothing except delay. While Montgomery's paratroopers were being slaughtered in the Netherlands, Patton's Third Army sat motionless in France. Tanks full of ammunition, guns ready to fire, fuel tanks empty. The war that could have ended in September 1944 dragged on until May 1945. 8 additional months, millions of additional casualties, because logistics dictated strategy and strategy prioritized the wrong operation. But here's what makes Patton's fuel crisis so revealing about World War II's true nature. The problem wasn't that America couldn't produce fuel. U.S. oil production in 1944 was 4 million barrels per day. That's 168 million gallons daily. Third Army needed 400,000 gallons. That's 0.2% of daily U.S. oil production. The fuel existed. The problem was getting it to France. Every gallon had to be loaded onto a ship in America, transported across the Atlantic, unloaded at Cherbourg or Normandy beaches, loaded onto trucks, driven 600 miles to the front. Each step consumed resources. Each step had limits. The ships could only carry so much. The ports could only unload so fast. The trucks could only drive so far. Red Ball Express drivers were working 24-hour shifts, falling asleep at the wheel, crashing, dying, to deliver 12,000 tons when armies needed 30,000. The system was at absolute maximum capacity. And that's the economic lesson most histories miss. Military success isn't determined by who has the best generals or the bravest soldiers or the most advanced technology. It's determined by who can deliver beans and bullets to their troops faster than the enemy can. Logistics wins wars. Everything else is tactics. Patton understood this better than almost any American general. His famous quote about amateurs studying tactics while professionals study logistics wasn't just clever. It was his fundamental philosophy. He'd spent years before the war studying supply systems. He understood fuel consumption rates. He calculated tonnage requirements. He knew that every mile his army advanced added exactly 0.7 miles to his supply line because trucks had to drive there and back. He knew that every destroyed bridge added 4 hours to delivery time while engineers built a bypass. He knew the mathematics. That's what made the fuel crisis so frustrating. The solution was obvious. Concentrate supplies on one army, let that army break through, win the war. But Eisenhower's strategy was political as much as military. He had to keep British and American armies advancing together, had to maintain Allied cooperation, had to prevent Montgomery from complaining to Churchill. So supplies were divided, and Patton sat in France. And the war continued. Third Army remained stationary from September 1st through September 5th. 5 days. In those 5 days, Germany moved 15 divisions to defend the border, established defensive positions along the Siegfried Line, reorganized their shattered units. When Third Army finally received enough fuel to resume advancing on September 6th, they hit prepared defenses instead of open roads. Breakthrough opportunity was gone. Patton's fury never diminished. His diary entries from September are filled with rage at the high command and timid strategy, and letting Monty waste our supplies. He wrote on September 7th, "We have lost the war tactically. We will win it eventually through the sheer weight of material. But we will win it slowly and expensively when we could have won it quickly and cheaply if anyone in command had any sense." He was right. The war didn't end until May 1945. 8 months later. American casualties from September 1944 through May 1945 totaled 136,000 killed, 385,000 wounded. Patton believed many of those casualties were preventable. If Third Army had been supplied in September, if he'd been allowed to exploit the breakthrough, if logistics had supported the tactical opportunity instead of political compromise. The final irony is that Patton's ammunition was never rationed. Third Army fired more artillery shells in September than in any previous month. They had mountains of ammunition. They just couldn't drive to places where they could use it. Because tanks don't run on shells, they run on gasoline. And gasoline was sitting in New Jersey while Patton's tank sat in France. When the war ended, Patton gave an interview to a military correspondent. He was asked what single factor contributed most to Allied victory. His answer was immediate. The American oil industry. We won because we could deliver 1 million gallons a day to Europe, and the Germans couldn't deliver 10,000 gallons a day to their own border. Superior logistics beat superior tactics every time. Then he added something the correspondent didn't publish until years later. But superior logistics means nothing if the high command won't let you use it. I could have ended this war in September if anyone had given me the gas. Whether he was right or wrong is still debated by historians. What's undeniable is that George Patton, the most aggressive American general of World War II, was stopped not by German guns, but by American logistics. By the mathematical reality that you can't advance 600 miles on 12,000 gallons of fuel. By the strategic decision to divide resources instead of concentrating them. By a supply system that reached its limit exactly when the tactical opportunity was greatest. Patton wanted gas, Eisenhower gave it to Montgomery, and the war that could have ended in autumn dragged into spring. That's what Patton said when Third Army ran out of fuel. And that's what the moment revealed about how wars are actually won. Not on battlefields, in supply depots, by accountants calculating tonnage, by truck drivers making one more run, by the unglamorous, brutal mathematics of logistics that determines everything.